Are there any matters of accuracy? No. Nick, could we quickly look at the action log?
Certainly. The first point about ACAS, I'm sure there will be more opportunity to discuss this in detail, but very quickly the headline is that Roger went to ACAS with our staff side representatives and reached an agreement as to how the disputed banding arrangements for 111 posts would be progressed, and that has taken the immediate heat out of the situation.
Okay. Are there any questions on that now? I think we'll have a chance to consider that in the Chief Executive's report?
No, in the private parts of the board meeting. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Then we'll move into the performance section of the board and the Chief Executive's report.
We'll just note the other items that where there's feedback provided. Sorry, just finishing up the action list. Tricia is not here. I don't know, Jackie, whether you can pick up.
I can, yes.
Oh, okay.
In fact, regarding that call, we did investigate it and it didn't involve NHS Direct. There was no relation to us.
Okay. Thank you. So now we move to the Chief Executive.
So now we can move to the Chief Executive's
Thank
report
you.
and the performance section.
I've provided the board with a written update on transition and decommissioning activity, and I'm very happy to take any questions on that. In addition, I have referred to the fact that, because of course this report was written before the 21st, that we will have mobilised the 111 services of air for England that NHS Direct is responsible for, and I can just provide you with a quick summary update since the 21st. So all of the 111 services for which NHS Direct was responsible have been mobilised by the 21st of March. All the ones that were due to go live have been mobilised. However, and this is the significant issue, the services encountered significant problems in handling the expected volumes of calls, and that's particularly evident in the West Midlands and the North West, which are of course the two biggest areas that NHS Direct is responsible for. Immediate action was taken and has continued over the weekend and is continuing today in close cooperation with local and national commissioners, ambulance services, GP out of hours organisations, to safeguard the service for patients, and this close cooperation has continued throughout the period and to date. NHS Direct mobilised the agreed contingency plan to maintain the 0845 service in areas where this was needed, and that contingency service took substantial numbers of calls over the weekend and was part of the mitigation to make sure that the service remained safe for patients. And I just wanted to record NHS Direct's sincere thanks. A number of us have been working with partner organisations, commissioners and others over the weekend to ensure that services remain safe for patients, and I'd just like to express my thanks to those partner organisations for their cooperation during this difficult period. I'd also like to express my personal thanks to all of the staff, frontline and support, who have stepped up magnificently to try and recover the situation. We are in the process of ensuring that we do everything we possibly can to stabilise the service and increase its capacity with Easter fast approaching. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. So I would just like to add, on behalf of the board, our recognition of the very serious performance issues that we're facing at the moment. I'd like to stress the board's entire support of the executive team and management in resolving these problems, with safety being the number one concern, and our stress on relieving them of any other responsibilities in order that they can focus exactly on that challenge. That's why we have a reduced executive presence today, and that's why we'll be losing you in a minute. We will of course need to investigate this and to have an inquiry and to really understand how this has happened, what the underlying causes were, but that's something for another day. At this point, what the executive and the whole of the management team and all of our staff need to know is that the board is supporting you to do your jobs, to stabilise the service, and that's the same message that we're communicating to our commissioners, both nationally and locally, that that's our entire focus for the foreseeable future. Thank you. Are there any questions to Nick? I think we should then carry on. Thank you.
Okay.
Tom, thanks a lot. So there was another item in Nick's report, which is mainly for the note, which I'm sure you'll have read. And we can move on to the corporate performance package. Now, Jackie, the way in which we handle it today, I think, needs to be slightly different. Because, I mean, it feels like this is looking at historical performance and things have moved on significantly. So what I would suggest to all of our board colleagues is that we probably don't want to spend the time today drilling into issues that were visible in February, but we will, I think, want to hear a quick overview on the financial situation now, recognising that that too will change significantly as a result of what's happening now. So would you mind just giving us a high-level overview, and then there may be some questions.
Okay, so shall I concentrate primarily then on the financial position?
I think so. There are a couple of headlines in the operational performance scorecard that you think are very important, and that's fine. But I think the finances probably it feels more relevant now.
Yeah. So in terms of the finances, as at the end of February, we still have a deficit of £700,000. However, at this stage, still have plans in place in order to meet an operational surplus. However, it's fair to say that one of the main risks will be 111 income for the rest of this financial year. We have invoiced all of our commissioners for the 111 income due because we had to invoice before last week. Some of them have already paid. But that obviously remains a risk to our financial position for the rest of the year.
Sorry, why is that a risk? So they might not pay?
That some of them may decide they want to dispute some of the invoices because of the levels of performance.
Right.
Yeah. And the call volumes that we'll have answered. However, at this stage, we haven't received any confirmation of disputes of invoices.
Well, the efforts at the moment are about running the service. I think we'll see the financial consequences further down the line.
And we may be seeing some unexpected costs for March, but in spite of all those, as of today, we are not anticipating making an operational loss. So although there is still a risk, we are still on track and have plans in place to be able to deal with that.
Are there any questions about the package that looks back to last month and the financial position today? No. Okay. Thank you. Thanks very much, Jackie.
Okay.
We can move on to governance and compliance. So we are not going to spend time now on a paper on the consultation update. Nick mentioned some of the issues in this executive report, and we're going to discuss it in the private session. Roger, is there anything you want to say now in public about consultation? So we've heard from Nick about where you got to with ACAS, where you and our staff side colleagues got to. Is there anything else to say in public?
No, and we are going to go into some more detail in the private part of the board, Chair. So I have nothing to add in the public part.
Fine, thank you. All right then, Sarah, we have normal and important governance topics to cover: the BAF, the Corporate Risk Register, and a change to the governance arrangements. Could you talk us through those, please?
Yes, sure. I'll start with the Board Assurance Framework. The Board Assurance Framework has been reviewed and updated by the executive team, and it was reviewed in detail by the Audit Committee last Friday. I have provided a narrative in the covering paper as to why each of the objectives are amber, and I will open up for questions about any outstanding objectives that are still amber if anyone has any further questions.
Don't think so. So the risk register.
And moving on to the corporate risk register, there has been very little movement on the public section of the register this month, and we don't have any red objectives on the risk register.
Which is interesting, given where we are.
Yeah.
We're quite strict about not putting issues on our risk register though, so these are looking at risks as opposed to issues.
I think we may find that that distinction doesn't serve us particularly well at this point, but thank you.
Okay.
Are there any questions on the risk register? No? So we have an important but technical change in responsibilities.
Yes.
Sarah, I think that the paper was self-explanatory.
Yes.
Is there anything you'd like to add to that?
No.
Okay. Does anybody have anything to say about the accounting officer change? I mean, it is important that we understand where the accountability lies. I think that makes it clear.
Yep.
Very good. Then we have minutes and feedback from committees. Now, some of that is from me deputising for Trevor Smith, and some of it is from Toby Jones and Peter. So if I start that off, this is feedback from the future NHS Direct subcommittee meeting that was held after the board on the 25th of February. And we concentrated in that meeting on issues to do with the finalisation of contracts, the performance of our live 111 sites, which at that stage was Sutton and Merton and Buckinghamshire, and on mobilisation issues. And we also spent a bit of time talking about the vision, mission and values of the future organisation. And I'm happy to take questions if there are any. The minutes of that meeting are in the private section, so you'll have had a chance to see those. Okay. Trevor, the existing services transition and decommissioning subcommittee.
Yeah, I hope the minutes are self-explanatory, but happy to take any questions on them. One thing I would say is that as of this morning, we are providing cover for 66% of our previous workload. The contingency was set at 50%. We're exceeding that, and we're now at 66%. But as of this morning, it is going remarkably well. It's sort of being well managed, and I think I'm fairly relaxed that will continue to do so.
Thank you, Trevor. I mean, I think we just want to recognise the exceptional performance of the staff in those services, and also the governance that your committee's provided that enables us to be able to deliver that level of service. So I think that's really worth noting. Peter, your audit committee, which was more recent, 15th March.
Yeah, just a few things then. We did review the first draft governance statement, which is slightly different to the normal statement made in the annual report, and members will be given a chance to comment on that. So I don't think it's circulated it yet.
Not to the board.
No, but the idea is that then it can be commented on, and we don't have to mince around with the words, as it were, at board meetings. So that will come round for anyone to comment. The final accounts timetable was discussed. The only thing really is it's, as always, very tight, and but everyone's committed to getting it done in the correct time frame. It should be possible to do that, or it will be possible to do that. The issue of the accounting for the decommissioning costs was discussed. I think I'd like to record my appreciation of the NAO's help in dealing with this matter. This is to do with the format for these decommissioning costs to be attributed back to NHS Direct. So we'll be talking about that more later, I believe. But there was quite a useful conversation with the NAO, who are supporting our line on that. We approved the internal audit plan and a couple of progress reports on mandatory training. There was adequate assurance for that, although Andrew will know the audit committee has been pursuing the fact that we haven't been that's on top of getting all the mandatory training done in the timescales, but we've had assurance that the word was unremitting focus on completing it, and also for the information governance, we were assured that that would be completed on time.
Sarah,
was-
have we managed that?
There were a couple.
Not quite.
Not quite. We have up until the 31st of March though, and we're working on that.
Okay. And you were looking to support from the non-executives to make sure they do their information governance?
Yes.
Okay.
That's happening today.
That means you.
I think good.
Anyway,
Not sure I've passed, but I've done it.
I'll move on.
I think both are required, Steve.
There was a
Keep trying, Steve.
there was substantive assurance on the application of the Cabinet Office guidelines that we used for the transfers in and out of NHS Direct, and that's, I think, very commendable. And on follow-up of audit recommendations, you know that the Audit Committee ensures that all actions are signed off. There were a number that were not quite completed, but we have been assured that appropriate action is being taken, and we have alternate timescales for that sign-off. So, but we will keep a close eye on that just to make sure that happens. No issues have been reported of any significance in the external audit report so far, which I think it's going along quite nicely. This is to do with the good relationship and the way we work with the NHS. The counter-fraud work plan was approved for the year. And the only other thing to report on is that we have kept an eye, as you know, on payroll KPIs, and we've actually got some good figures coming through month on month. But in view of the changes to the new organisational arrangements, we felt we should continue to persevere with that. So we are going to keep on reviewing that. That's the headlines.
Thank you. I mean, we have in this organisation had some difficulties with payroll performance, I mean, way back, and it is something which is so important that we pay our staff
Indeed.
correctly and accurately.
Correct.
I think that's well worth doing. Thank
So-
you. That sounds like a very good decision to me.
And that's the next.
Thank you. Any questions to Peter? The minutes will of course be coming to the next in the next board pack. No. Okay, thank you. We can move on. I think we can have a short discussion on stakeholder activity now. So there are two pieces of feedback, one from the existing services and one from the future subcommittee on call recordings that we continue to listen to and continue to focus on. And then I'd just like to hear back from anyone who's been out on engagement visits to contact centres, which I have and others have as well, I think. Okay, Trevor, do you want to just say a little bit about the call recordings that your committee listened to last time around?
Yeah, we considered two calls which featured repeat contact with healthcare providers for the same healthcare issue, and minute 8 of the subcommittee minutes sets out our views. I think under both calls we were concerned whether we actually gave too much information to the patients on occasions, which may actually be confusing and be difficult to handle. So there was a question whether we'd be really focused on the critical advice that we give. So there was an issue there. The other issue, which has been it's becoming a repeat issue with us, I think, is background noise we hear when we consider the call recordings. It was on the board action list, and the proposal from management was that we don't take any action, and there was an explanation of why there is background noise. I think that's something the subcommittee may wish to consider this afternoon. If the patient is hearing the background noise we hear, I think perhaps it is something that we do need to be slightly more proactive. But that's something for the subcommittee, I suspect.
I think Jackie and Jill may want to say something about that quickly.
We have a full update on that, which we're happy to cover now or this afternoon in the subcommittee.
Okay, so maybe you could take that into the subcommittee.
But we are comfortable with the findings, and we believe it will be closed subject to approval.
Right. I'll have a word with you about that as well.
Okay, no worries.
Thank you. Okay, so the Futures NHS Direct Subcommittee also listened to two calls. Those are 111 calls from Sutton and Merton. The first one was a very long, late night call, and we were worried about the focus of that. And the second call was highly empathetic and more focused, but there was a medicines issue which was potentially significant, which was missed. And I think that so there were some issues that the subcommittee felt somewhat uncomfortable about, including the quality of the call reviews. So our concern was that the issues that we had identified were not being picked up systematically in the call reviews. So that, I think that's something that we will need to consider further with the clinical director, about how we achieve consistently crisp calls and really sharp reviews that give appropriate support and encouragement, you know, where that's warranted, and it generally is warranted, but also is sharp at picking up things that need to improve. And I think what we were detecting was a kind of optimism bias in the call reviews, which is a potentially long term is a concern to us. So,
we're about to listen to the 2 calls, I think, in our existing service committee, and certainly, although we haven't had the discussions, I have concerns over the call review, and I was going to take it to the clinical governance committee.
That would be very helpful.
Yeah, because I do think it's something that we need to just focus on in terms of the balance in the call review. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. Yeah. Okay. Any other points on the call recordings that we've listened to? In that case, let's just take quick feedback on those of us who've been out and about in contact centres who don't do that as part of their normal management activity. Has anybody been on a visit to a contact centre other than me? Okay, well, let me just give you very quick feedback on mine. So I went to Bristol. The thing that struck me was the exceptional complexity of what we as an organisation are doing, exemplified by what was going on in that contact centre. So 111 pilots, new 111 services, 0845, changes of systems, 111 training, ad astra training, and all while people are organisationally going through changes of role and are either pleased or disappointed with the outcome for them. I was very struck by what that feels like in one room with 30 or so people going through that. I was extremely impressed with the continued dedication and quality of the work that was going on, but I came away thinking I almost don't understand how we are managing this. So it was a salutary experience. Okay, is there any other business today in the public session? No? In that case, the next time we will meet will be here on the 29th of April, by which stage we will have got through Easter, and we will have more to say about the performance of the services over the Easter period. And with that, today's public board meeting is closed. Thank you.